Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and today we are in the Jesus and Socrates book because, oh my god, it is a banger. It is a real banger. As far as bangers goes, this bangs the hardest. When you're thinking about this book, Jesus and Socrates are dialogue in heaven, you would be singing the song, She Bangs, She Bangs. That's how much this book bangs. So, covered a lot of ground already. Fundamentally, the question is, Socrates and Jesus, did they drop the ball in some way by not writing down their teachings themselves and leaving it for others to write down what they were saying? Which might have been a tall order, considering to really understand what they were saying, the people speaking for them had to themselves have an experience of the brilliant light of pure being, as both Jesus and Socrates had. Now, we could say that there are other things needed to be able to speak for these men, particularly to discover their own beliefs, because the beliefs that we are carrying we bring with us and we project onto what we see, causing interpretation. That's the big word, interpretation. What we've been learning to do on this channel is to read without interpretation, which means we go slow, which means we look at every word. If the text hinges on a specific, hangs or hinges or turns on a specific word, we look it up in the Greek, which is why we can only really be doing true Socratic philosophy if we have the Balboa translation, because the words are more accurate, and we can also look up the Greek. The reason the words are more accurate is that translator himself has been going through the process of philosophical midwifery, which is the specific skill and art to identify the beliefs that we carry that cause our projection and interpretation. In other words, it's not simply a matter of reading what's true. We have to also do our own job, what it means to be a good person, our responsibility, which is discover the beliefs that we are carrying from childhood that we don't even know we're carrying. That causes us not to read what's there, not to see the truth, not to reason clearly, but to be blinded from what's there, to be blocked from reason, and to miss what is there to be seen. Projection, or interpretation. So that's what would be needed for somebody to be to speak for these men. Have an experience of the, well, literally the highest experience mind can have, mind knowing itself as pure being, the divine light, it's sometimes called, the intelligible, the realm of being, from which understanding is derived. So when you think about what makes humans different than animals, we can think, we can reason, we can understand. We're not savages. Although we are savages, aren't we? Human beings can act in the most savage, irrational, and immature ways towards ourselves and each other. But we can also reason. In other words, it's not innate savagery. It is completely dependent on whether or not we engage in belief-based thinking, which is from our savage caveman tribal roots, which might have had a survival benefit a million years ago, but no longer serves us. Can we go from beliefs to understanding? Which is exactly what is necessary to be able to understand anything. It's particularly what these guys are saying. So if beliefs are from others, you believe someone else. You believe mum and dad. You believe your teacher. You believe your priest. You believe your imam. You believe your rabbi. You believe Donald Trump. You believe Netanyahu. all based on authority, other people. That's why it's stupid. Because you can't fix other people. You can't help them go through a process of examining their false beliefs and interpretations. And if anyone is demanding you believe them, already you know they have a sickness. Because anyone who really cares for you, anyone who really is a good leader or teacher, doesn't want you to believe. No math teacher says, oh, okay, this is how you solve the equation. And if a student puts up his hand and says, hey, how does that work? Oh, just believe me, bro. Immediately you would lose your job. That teacher would be trying to sabotage your development. If you're learning to become a mechanic, why does the gasket go to the carburetor? Oh, yeah, just have faith. What? You would immediately leave that apprenticeship because he is a con artist, a grifter, and isn't functioning as a teacher or a leader because he's not functioning for your benefit, your excellence, and your development. Simple as that. Now, here is the issue. As simple as that may be, we are still at that period of transition. In other words, while that rationally makes sense, and we can use many analogies where we already accept that, yeah, of course, you don't want belief thinking in any profession. And we know that sexist beliefs and racist beliefs are objectively wrong. We know that because we can think and reason and look at evidence. Only the stupidest and cruelest people are still sexist or racist. Oh, and a lot of them are grifters, trying to manipulate others against their own benefit. The right wing. Leveraging people's sexism and racism to steal their money and the resources. So even though we might understand that, it is difficult for us to accept that because we have our own beliefs. The thing about understanding human problems is we are humans, meaning we will be in the problem itself as we seek to understand it. Meaning we will be projecting, we will be interpreting, and we will want to cling on to our beliefs. It's easy to say their beliefs are wrong. The family across the street, yeah, they're crazy. The people in the religious cult up the road, yeah, they're nuts. The religions that aren't mine on the other side of the world, yeah, they've completely got it wrong. Do you see how they treat women? Come on. But when it comes to mine, my mummy was a saint and my daddy knew everything and my preacher really cared about me. I'll fight you to the death. Sounds silly when you say it, but it's true. So that's why this book is such a banger. In order to solve our problems as human beings, to remove our own problems that we suffer from every day, to remove our blocks to our highest goals, and to be able to move from freedom to excellence and reach our highest goals in the best possible way, we have to do two things. Learn how to understand, and learn how we react to understanding. Learn the truth and learn all of the different responses to truth. Learn rationality and learn how we will fight back against rationality to keep our savagery. Because 1,000,000 years ago, that helped us. No, I'm not going to venture out of the cave. I'm going to do everything tribe leader says and I'm never going to go explore. Well, yeah, and then you didn't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. Although, then we learned to think, reason, understand when the saber-toothed tigers were out there, understand how to avoid them, understand how to hunt them. Now we have some understanding. We don't need that blind, fervent loyalty to beliefs, but it's still there in our DNA. So what we're learning how to do here is to understand the meaning of life, the objective, true reason for all human beings that are here on this planet in time and space, The ideal conditions to develop understanding needed to A, solve problems, and B, reach excellence, which is fantastic. But discovering the meaning of life is only half of the battle. Because how do we respond to it? Do we completely ignore it and pretend we know better? Do we pretend to be following the meaning of life when really we're just doing what we always have done? We take a little bit and just keep everything and just take a little piece of rationality and cobble it together like patching up a coat. Or maybe we realize that a lot of people around us have been doing one of those things and we're trying to fight back against them. The people who deny rationality, we end up denying the deniers. It's an interesting class. There's a couple of layers there. The way I've been thinking about it right now is if people grow up in a religious tradition which denies reason and understanding, then they might, when they grow up, they leave the house, maybe they go to college or they talk to other people outside the family or outside the religious school that they grew up in. They realize, oh heck, that's terrible. Or maybe they get the internet and they realize, people used to say that internet would be the death of religion because it allowed people to reach out outside of their tribe and realize, oh, understanding's for everyone. And belief is not. Doesn't quite work that way yet. But anyway, when people realize, oh, wow, my religion is completely irrational and anti-reason, anti-evidence, and it's oppressive. Therefore, I'm now an atheist. There is no divine. Which is interesting because that is a response to the deniers. People who deny reason, religion, which means to deny reason to accept faith, belief. No evidence, no reason, no thinking for yourself, and believe shit that's against evidence and reason. And not only that, identify with it. Don't say, oh, I like this hypothesis. No. Say, I am a Protestant. It's your identity, so you can't change it. You are now a cult member. And people realize how terrible that is. Like, well, if that's what God is, blind allegiance to irrationality and harm, then obviously there's no God. Denier of the deniers. But then hopefully one of those people run into a philosopher and go, oh yeah, those people who reject reason, yeah, they're terrible. By the way, what if you do approach the nature of mind, or the nature of God, or the nature of the divine, or the nature of the highest aspects of consciousness with reason and evidence? Not physical evidence, but evidence in that you verify your reasoning, your understanding for yourself by experiencing it. Understanding and knowledge, dianoia and nous, or wisdom. And they'll say, I've never heard of such a thing. A rational approach to the divine, understanding the divine luminosity of pure consciousness. And then hopefully that person will say, yeah, not only is it, are you able to understand the nature of the divine, but understanding itself is birthed from that experience. All of the aspects used in understanding, recognizing same and difference, like and unlike, whole and part, seeking benefit or goodness, apprehending beauty, harmony, seeking order and justice. These are all aspects of divine luminosity, or nous, that which is knowable. In other words, all of the things you use to be a thinking being that distinguishes you from animals and worms and things, lower evolved species, all of those things that are not physical, you never see whole itself. You see it as an adjective. You never see beauty itself. You see it as an adjective. A beautiful person, a beautiful streamer, a beautiful painting. So what is the source of all of the adjectives? In other words, where are the nouns? Where are the things? They're not in drawers in a filing cabinet up in the clouds. They're all aspects, or eidos, mistranslated as forms at college. Not forms, they're aspects or eidos of that intelligence. So we say the intelligibility of nous is understanding. Or rather, understanding comes from seeing the connection between logos, rationality, and nous. Isn't that interesting? So, understanding comes from, well, is universal. Everyone can play. No one is excluded. No one thrown in jail. No one genocided. No one starved. No one kept in poverty. No, it's for everyone. And the verification of its source is for everyone too. Everyone who has mind has the potential to experience mind itself. Whereas on the savage side of the scale, from our early evolution, our caveman days before we had reason and language, we have belief-based thinking. So if understanding is derived from the inherent intelligibility of divine luminosity, where do beliefs come from? Other people that you perceive through your physical senses. You listen to them say or do something. You see them do something. And when we're too young to question, or it's too dangerous to question because we're 4 years old stuck in a house with these people who like to pretend they have knowledge, like to pretend they have understanding, then it can be too dangerous to question, or we're too young to question. And so we take that appearance for the truth, and we obey or copy or imitate that appearance. That's the source of belief. Belief-based thinking. And it's belief-based thinking that causes our interpretations, prevents us from understanding, and is fundamentally the cause of human problems. Isn't that interesting? You don't have to believe what is the cause of human problems. Believe in evil. Believe in sin. Nope. Believe that women are less than men. Believe that black people have a smaller brain and therefore should be slaves. Nope. None of that belief horse shit. You can understand. You can understand beliefs, and therefore understand the root cause of human problems. Hooray! And if you are fortunate enough to come across this introduction, or a person in this game who's shared coffee with you, cheers to coffee. Cheers. And they mention this to you, hey, by the way, everybody gets fundamental false beliefs through imitation from youth. That is the cause of our projection, interpretation, and repeating cycles of problems. Then the next step is to say, well, actually, if that's the case, and it's not a belief, it's something you can understand and prove, then you have a responsibility to go through the act of identifying and removing said beliefs. That activity is called philosophical midwifery. That's what we learn on this channel. And upon gaining the benefit from midwifery, being able to free yourself from your suffering, your problems, and be a positive shining light of good influence in the world, benefiting your fellow man, and you might turn around and go, hang on a second, maybe I can pass this on to others. In fact, being a midwife to others might even be a necessary step to completely removing your own false beliefs. Because as we seek our excellence, we uncover our blocks. Because blocks are only blocks to excellence. If something blocks you from doing something bad, then that's not a problem. There's a child lock on the bleach. No, that's not a block. That's a safety feature. And if the meaning of what we are here to do, the meaning of life, our purpose, is to develop a way of functioning, the highest way of functioning, which would be through necessity, just simply based on that reasoning, philosophical midwifery, then in seeking that activity with excellence, well, that might be necessary to surface all of the aspects of your false belief you need to see to become completely free from it. So therefore, we have a responsibility to be in the game of midwifery, but ultimately to become midwives ourselves. The meaning of life. So, Jesus and Socrates are discussing these issues themselves and pointed out, oh heck, we didn't write these things down, so unless all of our followers are going through philosophical midwifery, and all of our followers not only are free from their beliefs, but are able to experience the highest aspects of being that we ourselves have experienced, then their vision might not match ours. If they haven't had this divine luminosity experience, they might not really get what we're talking about. They might call the kingdom of heaven a physical place in the clouds when you die, and not a state of being. And if they haven't removed their blocks, which are fundamentally caused by our false beliefs, are based on a fear of the mind or a fear of reason, then not only have they not had that experience, they might be blocked from understanding that experience, vision and understanding, experience and making sense of that experience. How good is their nous or knowledge? How good is their understanding? And also the other part of the thing, how free from beliefs are they? Beliefs, understanding, knowledge. And if they haven't reached the knowledge experience these two have, and if they haven't reached the understanding of that knowledge that these two have, and if they haven't removed their false beliefs that are a fear of those things, then how could they have expected anyone to give a good account of what they said? Nevertheless, we do have accounts of what they said. We have, fundamentally, we've explored the two fundamental voices speaking for Jesus. Paul, who was so ignorant that he completely ignored everything Jesus said and made up a bunch of things that are terrible. And that's what we take from modern Christianity. A complete rejection of what was said and a complete adding of what Jesus didn't say. So modern Christians are Pauline. So you might notice that there are a lot of Republicans and other religious figures in positions of power who are trying to start World War III, who are doing genocide, who are aligning with tyrants around the world and are taking all the money away from people, putting people in a scared position, bombarding them with Fox News propaganda about how you always have to be afraid, because they want the world to end. Because they think Jesus will come back. Jesus didn't say that. Paul said that. They're not Christians, they're Pauline. Not only is that something Paul made up, Paul said this Armageddon, in which everyone's sin will be removed, not through understanding, but just from magic, And all of a sudden, the cause of human problems, not false beliefs, but magical demons, they will lose their power. And Jesus will come back on a cloud. And you get to go to heaven if you've been baptized and you've had the wafers, Eucharist. He said that will happen in his lifetime. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, wrong. Not only stupid, but wrong. Demonstrably wrong. So these modern Christians are Pauline, and they're also stupid, or rather blind to the fact that this prediction has been proved to be wrong. Isn't that interesting? Considering all of the war hawks in the world, the racists and the murderers and how they're all in power, and they get their power by appealing to other Christians who are themselves lied to by Paul. Similarly, we have Aristotle. Modern philosophy is based on Aristotle. Aristotle did the same interpretation, completely rejected Socrates and made up his own shit and claimed to speak for Socrates. So, as Jesus has Paul, Socrates has Aristotle. Socrates also has Plato, though, who did see a lot and was able to give us accurate dialogues of Socrates, which is fantastic. So that's what we have on the table. And by the way, we have Mark's account of Jesus, which so far seems to be the most accurate. Paul is completely wrong. And Mark gives an account of things Jesus said and did, and encounters, conversations he had. Matthew and Luke copied him, and John tried to bridge the gap to save Paul. So we don't really care about John, Matthew, or Luke. We care about Mark and Paul. The whole magically rising from the dead stuff, not in Mark. And Mark also emphasizes the value of understanding and not belief. How interesting. Also, in the beginning of the book, Jesus talked about how many of the philosophers lived within a day's walk from where he lived. The Hellenic philosophers who valued understanding. So he said, how of course I was influenced by them. How could I not be? We even spoke Greek. So, we want to ultimately gain a complete paradigm or model of all of the different ways human beings can respond to reason and new truth, because we don't want to have a new Socrates emerge from our race that can help save the starving kids, put an end to needless suffering and war, heal us from our ignorance based on false beliefs, and lead us into a lovely world, a world based on harmony and equality and freedom from work, freedom from slavery, freedom from needless waste and hoarding of resources. When such a person emerges, we better make damn sure we've done our job so that we won't get pissed off at that person like we did to Socrates. So we don't kill that person, but insist that person sacrifice their time and life energy to lead us. And they're not going to be convinced if we are savages still. Notice how the bully picks on the smart kid at school? Notice how the fascists setting up concentration camps go after the thinkers and call them woke because they think and they care about others. Notice how the fascists like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and all of those terrible people are calling empathy and care a bad thing, a bug and not a feature. So who do they go for first? The most caring and the most intelligent people. So if that's who we are, when a new Socrates emerges, why the fuck would he want to get a position of power? He's just going to be a target for all of the worst sons of bitches in the world. So we got to make sure we do our job, which includes understanding all of the reactions humans have to truth, so that when we have one of them, we don't say, this is the only reaction to truth. I'm a Paul. I'm just going to reject everything new and be a loyal fascist to my beliefs. No, that's just one response to truth. There are other responses to truth. Take a little bit of it, or pretend to be a person speaking for it. Or take a lot of it, maybe. Or take all of it and reject what's false. That seems to be the best. So just as we can gain an understanding of all of the levels of development as we move from the worst kinds of beliefs to better beliefs and better beliefs and better beliefs, to understanding, to knowledge and wisdom and excellence, and knowing the nature of reality, knowing the nature of the divine, knowing the nature of truth, and knowing the self beyond it, as we can recognize and have an understanding of human development based on the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides, completely rational, for everyone, always true, no matter where you are or when you are, so too do we need a paradigm for how we respond to that understanding. That's where we are in the book. Well, that's the promise of the book. To give human beings what we need to understand not only the truth, but how we have a human response to truth, because we have to deal with that too. We're not computers. You can't just program it in like you can with AI or ChatGPT or Gronk. Nope. We're human beings. We have that battle between our belief-based upbringing and evolutionary history and the new way of being, reason, understanding. So, with that in mind, we have two ideas of love based on interpretations of Jesus. We have Marx, which doesn't say a lot, but emphasizes that you have to have understanding in your love of God, and you have to have understanding to involved in recognizing your neighbor as yourself, or no, to see one's neighbor as oneself. That kind of love for the divine and for other beings both require understanding, not belief. It's Mark. We have some stories of conversations Jesus had with people about that very thing, like the scribe. We have Paul, which says that Paul's idea of love is human sacrifice, which is pretty much the worst you can be. And being kind to other people is an act of charity. So not seeing equality, not genuine understanding, not genuine empathy. So really, really terrible, but very common because most Christians are Pauline. So Paul and Mark's idea of love, based on their interpretations of Jesus. And then Socrates has given his idea of love that we gain from Plato. Plato, who himself was able to have that divine vision and was very good at understanding. So we're very fortunate to have Plato as one of Socrates' followers. Very unfortunate that he was 20 or so when we murdered his teacher. So he didn't go on to develop midwifery and dream analysis, which is a shame. But don't be sad, because we do have it here. We do both of those things here on the channel. So we have those two aspects as well. We have what we need. Oh, and Socrates' idea of love is something that seeks beauty, but if you also have a guide that uses understanding, uses the logos, you can be guided to see higher and higher levels of beauty. And then when you are able to be with your object of your love, your beloved, You have to add logos, add words onto that to develop an excellence from it. So to see one beautiful body and then make beautiful speeches. To be led from one beautiful body to many, to see that the same beauty is in all physical bodies, and then upgrade to another level, beauty in souls. And after you have some sort of relationship with somebody who has a beautiful soul, make sure the words you give are words that will help them and improve them. Welcome, Corporal. So, understanding with love to reach your object of beauty, and then understanding added to that to develop an excellence beyond it. That's the idea of love we get from Socrates in the Symposium. Hooray. Socrates went on to say that each of those levels of love correspond to levels of cognitive functioning. So evolution isn't physical, it's through cognition. How do we grasp the world? How do we make sense of the world? Now, we address our belief-based ignorance through midwifery, but once we're out of that game, what are the stages of cognition that human beings go through that corresponds to levels of beauty that we can perceive and join with? Being stung, realizing you don't know, realizing you're ignorant, but you're open and you're curious and you're seeking to learn and understand. Being stung. Right opinion. You join this channel, you get your nose in these texts, and we try and understand them without interpretation as best we can. Look for the puzzles in the books, look for terms, see if we can arrange those terms within a hierarchical structure, order them. That's a movement from right opinion to understanding. How well can we nail down those right opinions? See how they are necessarily, rationally, and beautifully true. Answer those puzzles we discover. And then knowledge. Understanding prepares our mind, opens our mind to be receptive to the experience of divine luminosity, or nous, or knowledge, or wisdom. So philosophical ignorance, right opinion, understanding, and knowledge or wisdom. Corresponding to levels of beauty that you seek through love and you develop through understanding. He goes on to say, hey, that's how you, how does he explain it? When you find a person with a beautiful soul, who is open, generous, and dedicated to the pursuit of understanding or philosophy, you welcome that person, body and soul together. You cultivate a relationship through talks about excellence, about what it means to be a good person. And that relationship can give birth to works that can rival even Homer and Hesiod. Give birth to creations that can last 1,000 years, that will be an object of benefit and reflection for humanity for 1,000 years. So to be able to see a soul of that kind, open, generous, pursuing understanding, should awaken a desire for that beloved, but also a need to preserve and cultivate a meaningful relationship. Therefore, the courtship must be gentle and sincere, and definitely include trying to understand, an understanding of the beloved, which means you have to battle with the two forces within your human nature. The powerful emotional drives that want to goon, that want instant gratification, your gooniness, but also the reason part of your soul that seeks justice, nobility, fairness. You want to subdue the emotional one, and use reason to guide the better part of your soul in your courtship or pursuit of your beloved, who has that kind of beautiful soul. As that relationship develops, as you both go through that development of beauty and understanding, it can culminate in he says it really nicely, the crowning experience of the philosopher, beauty itself. The experience of beauty unfolds the nature of reality as truth. But remember, we also have to add understanding onto that. From this state, true excellence can emerge. It is the crowning experience of the philosopher, brought into being by love and perfected by logos, perfected by reasoned understanding. Therefore, that kind of relationship with a beautiful person, because of their beautiful soul, mirrors and guides you along your own spiritual and evolutionary development, culminating in the highest experience of beauty from which you can both develop the highest kind of excellence or the meaning of life, and give birth to works that can last 1,000 years and rival even Homer and Hesiod. In loving one's beloved, one learns the way to the divine. The way to the divine is the way of the very passionate lover, the way they must learn to cultivate and gain the beloved. But the mystery of love is not in loving someone exactly the same as you, but learning the meaning of difference. How are you both different? And here we can discover the mystery of mankind being between two extremes. Our savage belief-based thinking, our caveman roots, the cause of our terrible injustice, but also understanding-based thinking, evolved, sages, enlightened people, able to solve problems and reach excellence. We're in between both. Nature and the divine, ignorance and understanding. And somehow going through this process with your beloved can bring to birth a mystery of the extremes, and maybe even finding the meaning of the mean. The mean is in the middle. Because finding a harmony in a world of extremes, the physical dimension, is the goal of the intelligible cosmos. So we are here to bring order and harmony in line with our intelligence, having a harmonized relationship with the extremes, not punishing people for being ignorant, but also not giving them the keys to the car, not making them president or pope. No. Guiding them through their own development in harmony with life, not seeking profits while blowing up the planet, not maximizing profits by throwing more children into the children crushing machine, Coke maximizing profits by murdering unionizers, or poisoning lakes because it's cheaper than actually dealing with their industrial waste. No, that's not harmonized. Now, we don't do what they do and just murder them for being evil. No. Understand why they were motivated in that way, what prevents them from being harmonized, and how can we find the best of us to lead us in a way that can harmonize the extremes. Similar to how can you and your beloved find a third thing, logos itself, beauty itself, that can lead both of you together, harmonize the two of you together and bring you both to that highest state of excellence. Therefore, true loving relationship based on understanding is the path of spiritual, philosophical, and evolutionary enlightenment. What a neat idea of love. Aren't we lucky to have Plato and the Symposium and this book which spells it out? Let's jump in. It's all so good. How far back do I want to go? Let's start here. Socrates. In Plato's Symposium, which describes me going to a drinking party where we all discuss the nature of love and beauty, the Symposium, which I believe is being read on the Awakening Philosophy channel, and you can join the Discord. Plato starts with love expressing itself in the love of beautiful bodies and in beautiful logos or speeches. Then he adds that it is necessary to see that the beauty of all bodies is the same, and goes on to love those who have beautiful souls, and then to beget beautiful logos so that the young can find in love something noble and good. Benefit the soul of your beloved. He goes on to urge the love of beauty in our cities and customs, so that one can see a wider scope for love in the quest for beauty. These early stages of seeing beauty in these early stages lead to seeing beauty in different kinds of knowledge. Surely we know that this kind of knowledge shines forth from the very source of love and the logos, the source of love and logos. For it is this that prepares the soul for the final vision of beauty itself. The experience of beauty opens the mind to the profound. For mind alone can experience it. The experience is defined with carefully chosen superlatives and balanced by negatives. The experience of beauty unfolds the nature of reality as truth. It is from this state that true excellence can emerge. It is the crowning experience of the philosopher, brought into being by love and perfected by the Logos. Is there more I should hear that describes the teacher and student relationships more than these steps or stages? If the teacher finds a soul that is open and generous and dedicated to the pursuit of philosophy, Plato says he welcomes the two together, body and soul, and cultivates the relationship through talks about excellence, and shares with his student what a good person ought to do and be. As a result of what they share, the student gives birth to what can be said to rival Homer and Hesiod. Now, Socrates, are you saying that Plato realized that his work would continue and rival the divinely inspired works of Homer and Hesiod? Surely that is granting it a very high honor. You are right to ask that, Jesus. And the answer is that Plato says it ranks higher than even those who established the first rational laws. And even beyond the works of both the Hellenes and the barbarians. I wonder if we should say, "Good heavens, Socrates, what a splendid vision you describe." Awakening this profound idea of understanding is to prepare one for the noetic vision of reality. Now, can there be more to that from that other work, the one you call the Phaedrus? Yes, the way the lover should approach true beauty is to join her in a sacred union that is the artful form in this dialogue. That is given an artful form. Sacred union. The idea is simple enough. He presents it in terms that makes it vivid and vital. If the desire for the beloved is joined with the need to preserve and cultivate a meaningful relationship, then the manner of the courtship must be gentle, sincere, and include an understanding of the beloved. The opposite way ruins it. The difficulty in achieving this goal is that the soul of man combines nobility and fairness with a powerful emotional drives that want instant gratification. With the struggle between these two forces, reason is forced to control the one desire and subdue the other. If it is successful in this struggle, it gains the beloved. If not, it faces failure and shame. The image he presents of the struggle is the charioteer trying to manage the conflicting desire of two powerful horses. The plot of the drama focuses on the struggle for spiritual enlightenment. This always occurs because there is no beloved more beautiful or more real than the experience of true enlightenment. If the approach to the beloved is as a rash lover, all is lost. The difference between the struggle of those seeking earthly beauty and those seeking the magnificent divine beauty is as vast as can be imagined. The difference between gunas and philosophers is as big a difference as can be. The difference between simps and... Okay, I won't keep doing that. As Plato puts it, if the human eyes could be brought to see and behold divine beauty, a terrible love would be aroused. That would be uncontrollable. Thus, the way to the divine is the way the very passionate lover must learn to cultivate and gain the beloved. Truly, it is a very beautifully told story that is as profound as it is true. I see that there is a depth behind these remarks of yours. This idea of love gives me much to reflect upon. You grasp the very dynamics of loving beautifully. So in loving one's beloved, one learns the way to the divine. That's the thing that we highlighted before, right? In loving one's beloved in this kind of a way, this kind of a beloved, this kind of courtship, and when you're together, this kind of development of that love through seeking higher levels of beauty, higher levels of cognitive function, and perfecting all of those beautiful experience with understanding to reach the highest kind of excellence. That kind of loving is how we learn the way to the divine. Isn't that interesting? Right? Very different from, pickup artists that try and use words to manipulate. Hey, baby, look at my Bugatti. Or people who try and claim a list of lovers. Look at all the people I scored. I bedded 20 people in a year. Or whatever. That makes me an alpha dog. I'm going to go on Joe Rogan and tell him all about it. Very different, right? One preys into ignorance and the immediate physical gratification. The other awakens you to higher personal development, evolutionary development, spiritual development, and culminates in the greatest possible experience. Infinite gooning. No, don't say it that way. That's gross. I take that one back. Bliss. That's a better word for it. The difference between the mortal and immortal are the extremes that you learn to reconcile in the mean. In learning the nature of the meaning of the differences, it creates the conditions for a higher union. That's a big question. What's the difference between you and the beloved? What's the difference between men and women? What's the difference between what that other person does that draws you in, that's different from what you're doing, but has that divine spark? And how can you bring them together in some way with a mean? Interesting puzzle. In learning the nature of the meaning of differences, it creates the condition for a higher union. Which also is reflected in what we should be doing as a species, right? This whole idea of blowing up the world is not a good way of caring for the world. It's the exact opposite. So again, it's a huge puzzle that we all should be awake to. Why the fuck do the people who are the worst caretakers for the world, capitalists, billionaires, genocidal tyrants, and fascists, and also religious nutjobs who want to end the world so Jesus comes back, why do they have the keys to the car? Because what we need to do as a principle that will always be true, no matter what planet, galaxy, or time you're in, is you have to protect differences. We need diversity, evolutionarily speaking, and sneeze. What we're seeing here. How can you protect all the different sorts of people, all of the unique personality types, all of the different expressions of consciousness, mind, and self on this planet? How can you account for, protect, and harmonize all the differences into a sameness? How can you bring a unified way of being that also protects and accounts all of the manyness? Sameness in unity, one vision, Philodianoia, the love of understanding, but also protect, care for, and harmonize all of the differences. Not about being Nazis, everyone must be the same as me. It's the opposite. Same and different together. Whole and parts together. Like and unlike together. All of the fundamental aspects of being that we understand in the Parmenides. The basic units of thought, cognition, and reality. Whole, part, same, different. And that's the significance of the book, the Parmenides. Because that's the Logos. We can learn the Logos directly in the Parmenides. So we talked about the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides being the stages of human evolution. That's because it's purely rational. It's the model of rationality. It's the paradigm of reason that we need to be insisting and understanding of for every spiritual and political leader. Always. And forever. Just like you demand an understanding of an engine from every mechanic, always. And forever. There'll never be a period of time where you bring a car in and they'll say, okay, let's fix the car by praying or believing as hard as we can that the engine will work. Never, ever. That's mental. Anyway, so the significance of that is we can also see this use of whole and part. By the way, at the beginning of within the thinking of Socrates himself. Hey, Jesus, we need to be, if anyone's going to speak for you, they have to be able to account for all the parts and bring it together and represent the whole as well, parts and whole. We need to be able to account for all of the different opinions or interpretations. And here we're looking at differences again. Differences and sameness. How are you and I the same, Jesus, says Socrates? How are we different? So that's another important way of reading. When you have someone like Socrates in the book, can we not just listen to what he's saying, but can we see an order and structure behind his thinking? That's metaphysics. That's the study of understanding itself, or being itself, the rationality of the divine light that they've both experienced. That's metaphysics. It's fun. It might take a while if you get your head around, but it's not like there's a huge list. Whole, part, same, different, like, unlike, and a few other ones. As well as those universal things that can take conversations like we're reading in the Is It All Relative book. Hey, everything is relative to a belief. There's no truth. If you believe it to be true, then it's always true. Hey, what about good and bad? I mean, if you believe a sandwich is a good sandwich, but it's rotten, if you believe it to be good because you were wrong, you were mistaken, is it actually a good? Oh, what about benefit? Hey, even political groups who have different goals, like there are some Nazi groups out there, they have advisors and they seek their goal, right? They seek to benefit, well, usually the leaders, but ideally the members of the group. But hey, is advice wrong sometimes? Can some groups fail? Oh, so introducing these fundamental principles of metaphysics or reason itself, benefit, goodness, maybe even beauty. Is there a difference between beauty and ugly? Harmony, symmetry, order, proportion. Therefore, not every painting is as beautiful as the next. Not everyone is a supermodel. The most easiest perception of beauty. There are some electric cars that are ugly as all heck, and there are some beautiful cars, right? Car people think that some cars are beautiful. So these are fundamental. But by the way, we saw that the development of understanding can be led through higher perceptions of beauty, leading to what he calls the fundamental principle of both beauty and logos. The crowning experience of the philosopher is brought into being by love and perfected by logos because where is it? Where does he say it's the source of both? It's the source of both beauty, the same thing, the same single experience and truth of reality, mind itself. Is the source of both reason, understanding, logos, and the source of beauty. But okay, let me find it. Logos. Oh, here we go. I didn't highlight it. That's the problem. Knowledge shines forth from the very source of love and logos. That needs to be in pink. Holy crap. So all of those metaphysics or rational divisions that guide Socrates' thinking and guide the dialectic are all from that same source as the other things like justice and beauty. So one is rational, one is more about the whole. What would you say? One is about parts, whole, different, whole, part, one, many, same, different, like, unlike. What else is there? In time, out of time. I'm missing a couple. Whole, part, same, different, like, unlike. In time, out of time. There's two big ones I'm missing. See, I've been leaving out a few because I don't want to give it away. So, yeah, no, maybe I'll keep doing that. What? Not greater and lesser. That's in there, but oh, yeah, I remember. I'm not going to tell you. You got to read the Parmenides. But same source, beauty and understanding. Whereas belief is copying, imitation. And it's difficult to imitate, you can't really imitate understanding. Because understanding is a recognition of these parts, these divisions, and recognition of the wholes, beauty, justice, goodness. So, such that you can use them wherever you are, to anyone, in any conversation. Can't imitate that. If you're imitating it, well, you've already got it. I mean, I guess you could copy some catchphrases. But generally speaking, imitation is, like, think of comedians. Who do they imitate on stage? The stupidest people, the cruelest people, the meanest and dumbest. A parodied. That's one of the many reasons why Trump is in office. All of the late night comedians parodying him on SNL and all that. Hi, welcome, Big Slick. Big Sick. Whoa, Big Slick, Big Sick. How about I just say Mikhail? Welcome, welcome. So, we might recognize those who are in belief-based thinking, which is based on imitation. What's easy to imitate? The ignorant, the cruel. So we often see right-wingers or belief-based thinkers being cruel. Religious people, very, very cruel. And very stupid. Because that's easy to imitate. And belief is from another person that you've perceived in the physical world. Whereas understanding is derived from the metaphysical realm of being. You can't really imitate that. It'd be hard to imitate Socrates, but easy to imitate Trump. And if your model of thinking is belief-based, then that's why people, hang on, why are those billionaires? I mean, they are the obscenely wealthy. Why don't they just use that wealth to treat their workers better? Why don't they end? Why are they actually murdering children and starving children to death when they are the people who could be feeding them? Everyone? Cruelty is the point, because you can imitate cruelty and ignorance. That's why belief-based thinking is our savage caveman roots. And why Trump has surrounded him with equally ridiculous characters. Would they even recognize a Socrates if he passed him in the hall? So, right, so we're talking about, well, if belief is based on imitation, based on the physical world, perceived through the physical senses, the opposite, understanding, derives from pure being, the metaphysical realm. And those parts, these aspects we've been talking about, intellectual aspects like whole, part, same, different, wholeness aspects, beauty, justice, goodness, that's the principles of understanding. Not through imitation, but understanding. So one comes from being, one comes from the physical. One is an imitation of the worst aspects of reality, cruelty, pretending to be just. One is from the highest. And there we are in the middle. We either demand an understanding of the universal paradigm of goodness, the logos, from every spiritual and political leader, which we have been failing to do, because just be polite, let genocide happen, don't judge another culture, that makes you anti-Semitic. Fuck off. Demand understanding of truth and benefit, because otherwise people will be using beliefs to imitate what's false and what is cruel and harmful. It's just as simple as that. Easy to see with other beliefs, difficult to stomach when it comes to our own. Therefore, the need for integrity, openness, sincerity, and seeking truth above all. It's easy to genocide the Palestinian children if you're a Jew. Harder to challenge your own beliefs of your own culture being the chosen person. Easy to criticize the Protestants if you're a Catholic. Hard to challenge your own Catholic beliefs if you're a Catholic. Easy to call infidels all the people who aren't Muslim. Hard to challenge your own mummy and daddy who you've never challenged in your life, who taught you Islam. See? It's not a personal thing, it's universal. And if you imagine a delegate for humanity going to an alien planet and having this conversation, would we bring belief with us? Oh, the red aliens are the chosen aliens, and the green aliens you can beat up and take all their resources. Yeah, call them savages and post Instagram photos of you mocking them. Yeah. We wouldn't say that, it'd be stupid. We'd say, red aliens and green aliens, you probably get along, share resources, share technology. Renewably, sustainably, efficiently, in harmony with the highest technology you have, shared, no one hoarding resources, no one hoarding technology, in harmony with all life and the planet itself. Freeing yourself from work so you don't have to sacrifice your life for survival, so you can go through your own development from belief-based, caveman, ignorant bullshit to understanding-based. Cognition that allows you to address problems which are caused by belief and also reach your highest excellence. And then, hey, maybe you can join us human beings as being ambassadors to the rest of the galaxies and cosmos. Because this is not just true for humans and aliens, it's true for any species. Kinda makes sense when you say it out loud, hey. Bringing us back to this quote, finding the harmony in the world, in a world of extremes, is the very goal of our intelligible cosmos. Cosmos means the entire physical existence. including the intelligible realm. Not just our galaxy, all galaxies. Not just our universe, every universe, if there's a multiverse. Therefore, once we go through this process ourselves, we can say, hey, what next? This. Finding a harmony within all extremes. Red aliens and green aliens. Jesus jumps in. There can be little doubt that Plato's idea of love and the Logos far excels that of Paul and his followers. So it is a certainty that we shall say that Paul is as ignorant of the loftiness of your teachings as he is of your philosophy, Jesus. He substitute his own limited theology for yours. And then he is a denier of what you put forward. Modern Christianity, Paulines, denying what Jesus put forward. From what you have said, it looks like Mark may be our newcomer, the fifth division, since he denies what the denier proclaims. Curious it is and interesting. So, 5, let's make a list. How do we respond to new truth is the question of this book. Well, got 1. Accept the new. Let go of, jettison, remove. Let's say let go. Let go of old beliefs. We've got 2, reject. The new. And rational. Fiercely hold to old beliefs. The Nazis, the MAGA, the Zionists, the fascists, the savages and barbarians. Number 3, claim to accept and speak for, accept, zoom in so I can, and speak, with that in capitals, speak for the new while substituting in the old. This is a wolf in sheep's clothing, so we can how do I draw a wolf? Like this? Got some ears, some eyes. That doesn't look like a wolf at all. He's supposed to be dressed like, it looks like a pig. Okay. Wolf with a snout. Oh, that's even worse. Wolves have a snout, and they have eyes, and they have ears. That looks like a emu. Wolf. I'll write it in capital letters. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Number 4, way of responding to the new truth that we need to understand so that when a new Socrates arises amongst our ranks to put an end to the catastrophe and the terrible shit we're suffering through, we respond properly to that person. Take a piece of the new to patch up holes in the old beliefs. It was patchwork or patching a call this patchwork cloak. Oh, that reminds me, I can hear someone moving the bins out. It's bin day this morning. I got a bit of time to put out my garbage. We are putting out the real garbage. We're putting out the garbage of mankind by learning how to think good. That's the real garbage, man. We are the real garbage men. We are garbage men of the soul. Time to take out the trash. That's how I really sound. Now the 5th is the denier of the denier. So number 2, denier of the denier. That's Mark. Saw Paul doing his crap, and we said, hey, Paul is talking garbage. Don't listen to Paul. He's a crazy genocidal maniac, wants to put an end to the world and says that he's smarter than Jesus. But we didn't listen. So there's our 5 so far. From what you said, it looks like Mark may be our newcomer, the 5th division, since he denies what the denier proclaims. Curious it is and interesting. Well, I agree, says Jesus, that it does make him a member of a new division. The 5th. True it is, and we can call Mark the slayer of the falsifier and denier Paul. Slayer of the falsifier and denier. That's Mr. Mark. Slaying the evil. Not evil, that's not a thing, but yeah, you get it. Chorus. So, we can even have a representation of different responses to what we're reading within the book. The chorus don't like learning anything new. They represent people with that fear of the mind. What just happened? I need a voice for the chorus. What just happened? Hey, welcome, Sus. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome back. Wow, let me move this over to the big screen. We have, Love Heart Moogle, Cow with a Heart, Dancing Demon and Dancing Angel. Oh, how relevant. A Moogle that looks like, is that a pirate? No, just Moogle. Kitty with Love Heart. Dancing Jelly, oi. Wow, multicolored jelly bears. And then some cool cats doing a bit of a dance. Thumbs up. And a person who's fallen down, reaching up to a love heart. Very cute emojis today. Welcome. How's your day going? What just happened, says our chorus. This is absurd. Arguing against revealed truth, a mere argument. Against revealed truth. Paul said, it just was revealed by God. You can't question me. Against a revealed truth, an argument has no weight. Those who believe can't be shaken by this logic chopping argument. Collective belief has power, and this little argument has no effect on the enormity of what Paul declared. Paul declared that the utmost significance of Jesus' resurrection is what Christianity is all about, even though it never happened. Paul merely toasted it to the heavens and gave us a way to free our souls of the suffering of sin, not through learning and understanding and becoming better by human sacrifice. The past suffering over one's sins is past. A sinner is forgiven of his trespasses by being justified by his faith. And you no longer have to suffer guilt since you have been justified. Yes, believe in this terrible asshole and then you can do whatever you want. So that phony argument you have just heard has no force. It is like trying to topple Mount Everest with a push of your hand. What you do here is a crazy myth wrapped in an absurdity. You can't love God as you would a woman.
Is this chat full of dumb
No, they have to be kept in their place.
I'm too pure.
And conform to the law. You don't have to believe. Look at what you get for believing. No one ever taught you to believe. Take a look. Sure thing, they don't have to believe it, but you have to know one thing. Listen to this for a truth. Whatever a believer believes is true to whoever it seems so. Want to believe you're a giant space monkey with laser eyes? Then it's just as true as anything else. So free all the crazy people from the mental hospitals. Whatever a believer believes is true to them to whom it seems so. Who can say something is not believable to him whom it seems so? Who can say what is sin and suffering? You can only experience it. Who's to say? So notice all who questions, not what questions. What's the reason? What's the reason why something is? No, who is to say? You can only, remember, beliefs are believing someone else. Who? You can only experience it, and that's all. Another absurdity is looking for faults in Mark's gospel, because you either accept Jesus' account of his miracles or you are left out and can't believe in the miraculous. That means you are dead to faith. So not only are they trying to say whatever Paul made up is fine and you should believe it, but don't even question the miracles in Mark. That's a little bit of foreshadowing, maybe. Maybe we're going to get into that next. Now we have the anti-chorus. Anti-chorus. Are you afraid to ask if this argument is true? Who else has seen it? Do you allow yourself to wonder just what effects this kind of reasoning has on the systems you have claimed otherwise? Are you worried what other arguments are yet to come? Getting ahead with that miracle stuff. State what is said, that the model of the dialectic is in force. Let's highlight model of the dialectic. That seems significant. Does going this way shake what you have taken as true? Go ahead and say it. Does believing make it true? Why not leave now before you hear more? How come you're staying to hear more? Is your anger burning more furiously when you hear what you can't believe? Right, this is where we are. A bit of a review. Let's keep reading. Socrates. Socrates, where are you? Come back to me. Could you fill me in on the background of your exploration? Because all I have heard is that Mark has been said to be the earliest, followed by Matthew, Luke, and John. Sure thing. You see, that Mark supplies the narrative structure for the other gospel writers. Highlight that. It is obvious that both Matthew and Luke copied heavily from Mark, but John covers several points that are found in Paul's doctrine. Oh, that guy again. What is interesting is that you can't find Paul in Mark. Rather, Mark rejects each claim put forward by Paul and also adds a rejection of the tradition of Moses and Elijah. So Mark rejects Paul, Moses, and Elijah. Interesting that what was not a part became a part. Now, as you did with Paul, are you going to do the same with Mark? Let me use your mode of reasoning, Socrates, to put forward what is there to be seen. To do this, let us first look at the inherent problems that Mark outlines in his gospel. You see, Socrates, he describes my journey so beautifully that unless one sees the points he is making, it is entirely possible to be caught up in the beauty and ignore the meaning. Beauty without logos is not good. Doing so will make it much easier to see Paul's view of God and man's relation to God as something that is simply ignored in Mark. So Mark ignores all this crazy shit from Paul or rejects it. Interesting way you have of going. Interesting way you have of going. A 2-level exploration will bring the house down.
He better not.
Iluma!
So, right from the beginning, Mark shows that I am not following the path of John the Baptist. Alright. Since I am not going around baptizing for the forgiveness of sins. Then there is a problem of the consequence of a sage or teacher choosing his disciples or his students, since the success or failure of those taught depends on the ability of a teacher to communicate his teaching and for the students to have the commitment and aptitude to learn what is set before them to master. Clearly, Mark portrays me as a failure on two counts. He shows that my inner circle of disciples fails to grasp my parables. Even after they are given the key to the fundamental sower parable, they are still unable to apply it to the other parables. If these keys to entering the kingdom of God were available to all, there would be no need for this esoteric understanding of the parables, nor the need for an inner circle. Yet the understanding of these parables is said to be the only way to gain access to the kingdom of God. The only way to the kingdom of God is through understanding the parables. Mark has my followers turn away from me at my hour of crisis. It raises a curious question. Could all the disciples, or even a few, have entered that kingdom of God? State of mind. And yet turn away and flee? However, it is not just the parables that are pointed to as the essential objects to understanding. Understanding all the way. Mark has me teaching in the temples without saying what I taught. His account of my miracles builds and reaches the high point with the feeding of the 4,000 and 5,000. But none of those cured or the miracle witnesses are admitted to my inner circle. Mark has me insisting that my inner circle understand not only the nature of the feedings, but also the meaning of the leftovers, the debris. What was ignored and swept away now has meaning. It is of the utmost for my followers to fathom. All right, so Mark is dropping the ball a lot here. And it looks like his account of Jesus has Jesus dropping the ball. Failure on two counts. Inner circle fails to grasp the parables, which is essential to understand to enter the state of mind called the kingdom of heaven. And even after they're given their fundamental, they are unable to apply it. They were given the key on how to unlock the mystery of the parables. They're unable to apply it. Interesting, isn't this interesting? You have to understand these parables. That's the way to the state of mind. And here's the key. They're like, nope. Sorry, bro. Nah, bro, I don't even want to listen to the parables, bro. Sorry, bro, I'm out of here. If these are available to all, yeah. So another problem is, why didn't he just share it with everyone? Why did he keep it to his inner circle? And if he picked the disciples, why do they abandon him when he needed them? But also Mark dropped the ball also because if Jesus is giving all these teachings, why isn't he recording them? If he's insisting on the understanding as being key to the state of mind of heaven, to loving God, to seeing one's neighbor as oneself, why isn't he outlining the understanding? And why is Jesus picking favorites? And why are his favorites not able to grasp it? A lot of problems in both Mark and Jesus. Well, a few big ones anyway. You have made an interesting point here. I would like you to express once more their failure to understand. Yes, it is important as much follows from it. Let me say that in their failure to understand, they are urged to beware of the leaven of the Herodians and the Pharisees. Beware of the leaven of the Herodians and the what? Beware of the leaven of the Herodians and the Pharisees. What the heck does that mean? The warning came after that feeding when the disciples asked for bread, knowing there wasn't any among them. Again, what is ignored and swept away now has meaning. For if they were asked if they knew the meaning of the account of the food that was left over after the 2 feedings. I remember reading this. He says, hey, we fed all these people. What's the meaning of what was left over? Thus, it is of utmost importance for his followers to realize that the least little thing that Jesus does has meaning to be fathomed, since to be in awe of the miraculous is one thing, but to understand the significance of both feeding in terms of their consequence to be in awe of the miracles is one thing, but to understand the significance of both feedings in terms of their consequences leads, he says, to the kingdom of God. It's not just being in awe, it's understanding the meaning. Which is interesting because what we've been learning by studying philosophy and midwifery and dream analysis is not only is understanding derived from the highest state of mind, pure being, but it leads to it. So we can see a sameness between what Mark is pointing to, the significance of understanding to reach the highest state of mind, the kingdom of God, and what we learn to understand through Socrates. Yes, it is good to hear that from you. Mark showed that even though the disciples were warned to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Herodians, they were unable to perceive how that warning related to the feeding miracles and to their own actions. What does it mean? I hope they tell us, because I don't know what this means. What the heck is the leaven? And if we are to be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Herodians, are we also to be aware of the 12 of them? We have fun here.
I find that very entertaining.
In the state of mind that is necessary to enter the kingdom of heaven, if the state of mind necessary to enter that kingdom rests upon the understanding If the state of mind that is necessary to enter that kingdom rests upon understanding the meaning of those parables. Fifth time lucky. If the state of mind necessary to enter that kingdom rests upon understanding the meaning of those parables, then why do they need Jesus as a savior? Maybe I should ask where he got that role. So the Savior's role is the next target. In Mark, we learn that after Jesus selects Peter, James, and John to accompany him to the mountaintop, he then describes the mystical experience of divine luminosity.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wow. And out of it appears Moses and Elijah. What? Magical ghosts. What's going on? They are said to have dialogued with Jesus. We learn nothing about that dialogue, nor do we learn why the disciples were told not to tell anyone about what they had seen until after I had rose from the dead. They asked if they could build 3 tabernacles on that spot, one for Moses, one for Elijah, and one for me. Is it not strange that none of the churches celebrate the transfiguration by building such tabernacles in their churches? I suppose if it was a high point and he met these people and had a discussion, number one, why not tell us what was said? And yeah, I guess the churches could build them too, I suppose. Why not? The actions that followed this personification brought about a dismal failure. The drama shifts to acting out the predicted passion story. Accepting the title of being the son of David is claiming the title of King of Israel, which meant usurping the rule of Pontius Pilate. Arrest, trial, punishment, and death justly follow for anyone acting out that claim. It is treason. The failure played itself out in that last plaintive cry on the cross. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Mark has me announcing that God forsook me since he didn't care to save me on the cross. The opening of this gospel has the voice of heaven announcing, "Here is my beloved Son," and ends with those last words of Jesus. Clearly that means that either God abandoned his Son or that he wasn't the Son of God. What is this story? A failed sage with a fine noble cause, but he gave up his sage-like function after his illumination? After identifying with his ancient prophets, he entered the political world, claiming for himself the role of king, the son of David under his God's care and vision. Pontius Pilate saw through the absurdity of this claim. This role he assumed turned into disillusionment when he had to face his failed vision. Now, very significant given what we have been learning on this channel. Philodainoia, the new way of being, the love of understanding, our purpose on this planet, has 2 fundamental aspects: removing the fundamental beliefs from childhood that block us and keep us chained to ignorance and suffering. Removing beliefs, but also developing understanding, which can lead to this vision. If he had the vision, but then he immediately jumped all the way back into his early religious teachings, thinking that he is to be the new king, entering the political world, identifying with his ancient religious prophets, which caused a lot of problems. What do we call that? Remember how we said, hey, is having a enlightenment experience, does that make you wise? Does it remove your problems? Does it make you a good teacher? Remember we talk about often the archetypal roles of the pervy sage, Goku's teacher, Naruto's teacher. Why? Because having an illuminating experience doesn't mean you've removed your beliefs. In fact, there can be a danger that with all of this, spiritual energy or enhanced confidence, if you still have your beliefs there, you might even end up playing out your false beliefs from childhood with greater certainty. What happened when Hitler got all of his confidence and charisma from meth or whatever it came from? Positive personality traits could allow you to play out your ignorance and false beliefs with greater disaster. Is that the story we see unfolding in Mark? Having an Illuminosity experience? Sure. Then jumping straight back into his beliefs. Playing out the old story of this is what the prophet will do. Oh, I'm gonna go do that then. I'm going to identify with these old prophets. I'm going to be king. That's me as the monkey holding up Simba. I just can't wait to be king. That's all the animals impressed. Although I do have a tiger here. I don't want to know. Let's not get into the stuffies. Maybe one. Wants to be king. And apparently that's heresy. And apparently Pontius Pilate saw through it. Hey, you can't just claim to be king. But I had a luminosity experience. I'm the best. Wait. Yeah, lots of gurus and all sorts of traditions have had spiritual experiences. Does that remove your problems? So after identifying with ancient prophets, he entered the political world, claiming for himself the role of king, the son of David, under his God's care and protection. Care and vision. Pontius Pilate saw through the absurdity of this claim. This role he assumed turned into disillusionment when he had to face his failed vision. So the readers of Mark, we experience in the tale of a noble man whose fate was of his own making, which was taking on a mission beyond the possible. Perhaps later we could find the opportunity to discuss that dialogue you are said to have had with Moses and Elijah. Is it not true that after any major experience, including that transfiguration, we dwell upon it and draw conclusions of it, from it? Oh, remember? Every experience of beauty that you're lucky enough to have with your beloved, dwell on it, add logos to it, understand it, draw conclusions from it, leading to higher and higher levels of love, leading to what I guess we're calling here the transfiguration experience, the divine luminosity of beauty itself, after which we have to develop true excellence. Playing out here. Is it not true that after any major experience, including that transfiguration, we dwell upon it and draw conclusions from it? Surely the more profound the experience, the more likely we are to draw conclusions about it. In my philosophy, we draw from Parmenides this principle, because after he experienced the revelation from the goddess, he framed his understanding of its meaning and called it his hypothesis. Wow. I would like to hear from you what you concluded since much followed and changed after your transfiguration experience, did it not? Interesting. Parmenides, and we have the dialogue called Parmenides, where he outlines those hypotheses, had a revelation from the goddess. The role of women as a guiding force to the enlightenment of men is an interesting thing that repeats. So Parmenides had his vision from the goddess. Socrates was taught by Diotima. I wonder if this plays into the role of love and the differences between men and women. I don't know. Something to wonder about, though. And that's what he called his hypothesis, the first hypothesis. So after you had your experience, Jesus, much changed, didn't it? Yes, and that's very likely to be of interest, but you are linking Mark's account of me to a Greek tragedy. And right now I find that more important to discuss. I would like to hear you unfold what you see in that. As I recall, the idea of tragedy must have a hero who is brought to the realization he created his own suffering. I believe the principle is that in ignoring what should have been known, one creates one's own fatal drama or destiny or fate. I don't see how that fits Mark's account. In considering the elements of tragedy, Mark is not a tragic tale, but instead a pathetic tale. It could have been avoided. Those who attend the tragedies know what a tragedy is. The tragic hero ignored things of his past that he should have attended to and dealt with. Remember, everyone's responsibility is to get into midwifery as best you can. Find those open, generous, interested and understanding souls, and you might even be able to move faster and develop a loving relationship, culminating in giving birth to or freeing yourself from your ignorance, attending and dealing with what we are all here to deal with, our pathologos. Just a little bit of an aside, let's get back to the book. The tragic hero ignored things of his past he should have attended to and dealt with. Man forgets what he should remember and remembers the trivia he should forget. Wow, what a statement. His ignorance crowned his folly with pathos. Pity is that the audience has for the hero, and they fear that they might share in the hero's fate. We are shaken by his ignorance and can only stand in horror at what could easily have been avoided. The character of the hero contains the drama of the play. The plot spins out the hero's actions. The drama of the tragedy has a reversal of fortune. It reveals past forgotten or unsuspected acts of violence, but the consequences play out their drama with deadly accuracy. The final self-inflicted violence upon the hero is played out before the audience. It is known to all that the fundamental error in judgment It is known to all that had the fundamental error in judgment been avoided, there would have been no tragedy. Yes, it is a victory for the culture to create and then keep upmost in their mind these tragedies, what we would call the inevitable, predictable, universal consequences of every single human being if they don't participate in philosophical midwifery. What should be remembered but has been forgotten, our earliest teaching scenes with our earliest parental teachers, we forget and we play out the tragic consequences for taking the blame for a past injustice against the self that we are taking the blame for to save our image of our loved ones, binding us to fate. Our life becomes the playing out of the inevitable, predictable consequences of identifying with that belief. Everyone's pathologos is different, but everyone has a pathologos if you're born as a human into a family of some kind, which is everyone, always. The difference is we don't have to play out our tragic fate any longer. Now we have philosophical midwifery. So, another reason why this is the meaning of life, or at least a fundamental key aspect of what we're all here to do. Isn't that neat though? Isn't that neat? The tragic flaw, the tragic blind spot, the playing out fate, the repeated suffering with a tragic consequence, the story of everyone's life. We don't have to do it anymore? Isn't that interesting? Don't you find it interesting? If you don't find it interesting, what the heck? What's wrong with you? I say to you,
Too stupid to understand, and also refusing to understand.
bingo. Yes, it is a victory, Socrates, says Jesus, for a culture to create and then keep uppermost in their mind these tragedies. Do these tragedies have a structure to them? I ask that because I wonder if Mark's drama was borrowed from those tragedies. Good question you have there, Jesus. There are those who find 6 natural divisions that are present in tragedies. Aristotle has the divisions, and they are well worked out. See if Mark's gospel can fit into that model. The difference that I see is that the ending of tragedy, the hero awakens to his folly. At the ending of a tragedy, the hero awakens to his folly, but not so in the Gospels, since you end in a forlorn, abandoned, and needlessly suffering role. This is one reason why I wish more people had picked up on midwifery so quickly. I don't want to end like this. And with the death of Pierre Grimes recently, there aren't a lot of midwives out there. None that I've come across. And midwifing myself ain't easy. Possible, especially with dream analysis, but we could all be doing more, right? I don't know. I don't want to end like this. Now, I also will take the time later to delve further into that very idea. It shows a masterful grasp of principles, and if Mark used them, the principles of tragedy, the 6 divisions as outlined by Aristotle, to craft his work, that would be crafting the drama artfully. It does serve to create a new religious image for man. It had been understood to be the death of the hero. It ushered in a new role for the sage as one abandoned by the divine. His ignominious, what the heck does ignominious? Ignominious means, deserving or causing a public disgrace or shame. Does it come from the word ignoble, as in not noble? Dishonorable, deserving of shame. Huh? What? Okay. Does ignominious come from the word ignoble? Yes. Ignominious comes from the word ignoble. Okay. I'm so smart.
Call a crackhead.
Okay. Irrelevant.
But this is probably the stupidest, crazy.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, death of the hero. A new role for the sage as one abandoned by the divine. Why have you forsaken me? His ignominious death is interpreted by Paul to be God's sacrifice for man's sins. However, I must say that it depends on several points you have surfaced. So a failure turns into a victory with Paul's crazy shit. If you take that as the death of the hero, it ends the sage as the ideal. A new image, a new ideal is being put forward. However, I will always wonder what it means to sacrifice for man's mistakes, faults, errors, and maybe even for his sins. For my own philosophy, it is only possible to grow if one has the courage to discover why one has faulted or been wrong. It is an opportunity to discover why the error was made. The act itself must have begun in believing one was justified in what one was doing. Taking that step of interpreting the death as the ideal of sacrifice and as a model for understanding renders the understanding of that event into something impotent, since a saving God doesn't save his son. Paul was an idiot. Paul was an idiot isn't in the book. I added that. Right, so killing your son as a saving God doesn't make sense because you're not saving your son, first of all. Second, how can you learn and grow if you're just killing another person to magic away your problems? You're not. That's stupid. And we know that punishment is stupid. Even if you're punishing the right person, it's still stupid. Because that's not fucking learning, that's just brutality and savagery. It's sadism. People thinking that they are powerful and they can inflict suffering on another person is sadistic, pathologos bullshit. So, saying that's what God is too, and even worse, by punishing another person. I mean, this Paul guy, the more I hear about him, the less I care for the man. I enjoyed the way you brought these ideas together, Socrates. I grasp the particular, and you supply the general. Wonderful it is. Interesting. Don't know how it's going, hey? The last piece to look at is the idea of the Son of God. Affirming or denying this claim has many consequences, has it not? Is it not an important issue to review with care? Okay. Well, seeing as it's an important issue to explore with care, we might leave it here for today. and come back to it to review it with care next time, because it seems to be a long conversation. I mean, this is good stuff. I'm super eager to get that list of all of the possible ways human beings can respond to truth, mainly because that's been my life. For pretty much the entirety of my life, I have loved understanding and only wanted to benefit everyone. And I've been shocked at every turn how fucking rare that is, and how brutal human beings can respond to such rationality and kindness. At every stage, from school teachers to football coaches to obviously parents and relatives, everyone, almost everyone, not quite everyone, there was this one guy named Pierre Grimes. Now, so that's been my puzzle. Why do human beings respond so negatively to understanding, which is for everyone, benefits all, not just helps you solve your problems and reach your highest goals? Why would you be butthurt about that? If someone offered you an ice cream, would you get furious? Ice cream? But I could enjoy that. What? You're offering it to me for free? Because you're a good person? How dare you? Doesn't make any sense. On the surface. Recognizing what we are seeing in this text, that mankind is between extremes, between our caveman ancestry and our potential sage-like enlightenment, between belief-based thinking, which every person has until they go through philosophical midwifery, into understanding-based thinking. Now, that is to say, we are all somewhere along that continuum. To be free from belief-based thinking, again, requires midwifery, but there are some people who love understanding more than others, but they are, from what I have found, rare. Now, some people love understanding some things, but stop short at various levels, of course. Ultimately, do you want to understand understanding itself? That's the question. So, given this confusion of my entire life, and given the significance for our whole fucking species to wake up on how to solve problems that aren't being solved, we still have Nazis, we still have goddamn genocides in 2024, what the fuck? We still have billionaires and wealth inequality, and starving children, and slavery, and a prison system designed to lie to get more slaves. In 2025, we have the internet. Jesus Christ, guys. So, given the significance of learning to love understanding, Philodainoia, understanding the different reactions human beings can have to this activity and way of being, you don't even have to say anything. You walk into the gym and the biggest fucking meatheads, we're going to see, oh, he's different just by the way he walks. Why? Why do we hate our own mind? Why do we hate our own benefit? Why do we fear rationality and understanding and fear what's different? That's the question in my life. So, making rational what has been hidden, well, that even might be part of my hero's journey that we're talking about here. If I've been shown in my tragic story something that I need to address with rationality that I've been ignoring, repeating failures to communicate what's most important for all human souls, time and time again, even generating negative, dangerous responses to simple understanding and care, then if I don't address it, then maybe I'm fated to play out a terrible, tragic end, helping the wrong person or helping too much. Or more accurately, what it seems to be, not nailing down all of the possible ways human beings can react to understanding and benefit, such that I can A, tailor it more appropriately to everyone based on their level of development, and B, not get mad at them being an idiot, but to recognize their response to truth and understanding as a simple stage in development that we are going through. If I have the whole model, if we have all the stages, then it can be perhaps, if it can be hierarchically arranged, then just as understanding can give us the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides for all individual and cultural development, spiritual growth, philosophical growth, evolutionary growth, it's just the 10 hypotheses. So too can we have a list of hierarchical stages of developments of how we respond to that, respond to rationality, respond to something new, good, rational, and beneficial. So again, we can tailor the way we communicate it and also make sense of the response, and also take that response and say, yeah, I know what's going on here. I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to take the blame myself. We're going to talk about your response and say, okay, that's just like Paul, completely ignoring everything good and being a dickhead. But there's a next stage. You can be like someone else who then takes a little bit, but don't stop there. Let's guide you from taking a little bit to taking even more. Now let's guide you through what you need to do to let go of what's preventing you from helping yourself. In other words, guide the person through their own level of development by recognizing not only where they are on the hypotheses of Parmenides, but also where they are based on their responses to what's good, true, and rational. So that could be my thing here. And I don't want to have a tragic end like Jesus or the tragic heroes. So I'm super, super excited to get that list nailed down. But now we are examining the Son of God thing. So I recognize how valuable it is. Because if the kingdom of heaven is a state of mind, which it seems to be, then if Jesus is the only one who gets to go there, then we can only be miserable peasants. And we can't be enlightened. We can't recognize that state of mind and understand that we can't develop ourselves. We're just slaves, miserable Protestant slaves, toiling away in the fields for the king and the pope until we die, maybe. But if it's not the only one who is of the nature of the divine, then we can all get there. So it can be a way of helping everyone evolve, everyone reaching their high spiritual goals, and unifying our whole planet. If we are all of the nature of the divine. Now, we understand that in philosophy, which is an understanding-based tradition. We don't have to just believe a tradition, believe some old dead guy, believe our mummy and daddy. So we are not a slave to that in philosophy. But there are some people who are. And it might be easier for them to stomach the fact that they can themselves grow and learn. They don't have to be loyal Nazis to the beliefs. If we can say, hey, Jesus even said you could do it. Maybe that's a good starting point. Oh, and by the way, when Paul said he was the only Son of God, that's not actually what happened. That's a lie. Jesus said you can all enter the kingdom of heaven if you understand the parables. Understand. So I can see it as a great doorway in to help a lot of people who are already born into Christian families. But yeah, but I also want that other list. So I'm so eager to get this thing nailed down. Page 62 of 270. So how far are we through? More than a fifth. Right? 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5. Yeah, between a fourth and a fifth of the way through. So we're getting there. But my goodness, isn't it exciting? Isn't this neat stuff? Anyway, super cool, super rad. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a fun time too. And feel free to like, subscribe on YouTube, follow along on Twitch, join the Discord if you want a notification when we go live. You can find a link to the text below. You can download it for free if you have that extension, or you can view it online, borrow it. And if you want to donate to the channel, there is a link to buy me a coffee below. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.